They made us lie. Right?
A crucial turning point captured in the new Netflix miniseries, When They See Us. A visceral and dramatic retelling of the infamous Central Park 5 case. Through the eyes of the 5 teenage boys convicted of raping and brutally beating Trisha Miley as she jogged in Central Park in April 1989.
The reason the case became such a sensation is because it was a true intersection of several, really pertinent and sort of toxic social issues: the racial bias, sexual assault, and the rise of the tabloid media.
After years in prison, the young men's convictions were vacated in what has become a permanent stain on the city's police and justice system. Although they were never officially exonerated, some argue the public perception around them should change.
The language of exonerated 5, as Ava DuVernay encourages us to use, is far more powerful and transformative than the Central Park 5. When we hear Central Park 5, we hear wilding, we hear crime, we hear trauma, we hear violence. When we hear exonerated 5, we move the spotlight away from these kids and on a system that led to a gross injustice.
The Netflix series, from Emmy Award-winning director Ava DuVernay, executive produced by Oprah Winfrey, sparking renewed discussion about the polarizing case and how authorities handled it, especially the woman in charge of the city's sex crimes unit, Linda Fairstein, portrayed in the series by Felicity Huffman.
Make them name their accomplices. This is not business as usual. The press is crawling all over this. No kid gloves here. These are not kids. They raped this woman.
The real Linda Fairstein speaking out yesterday about the series, calling it an outright fabrication that defames her in a Wall Street Journal op-ed. DuVernay tweeting out, "Expected and typical, onward," in response. The series seems to portray Fairstein as determined to pursue conviction at all cost.
I think there's little room for doubt who the villain of When They See Us is, and I would argue that it's Linda Fairstein.
In the Wall Street Journal op-ed, Fairstein agrees with the boys' convictions being vacated, but says they were guilty of other crimes that night for which they should not have been cleared. She also claims, in part, Ms. DuVernay's film attempts to portray me as an overzealous prosecutor and a bigot, the police as incompetent or worse, and the 5 suspects as innocent of all charges against them. None of this is true. She added that she never made any of the comments the screenwriter attributes to me. Ms. DuVernay does not define me, and her film does not speak the truth. Questions about the prosecution's case and the validity of some of the videotaped statements arose in 2002 when serial rapist Matthias Reyes confessed to attacking and raping Miley alone.
A serial predator steps forward and turns the case upside down.
At the time of his confession, Reyes was already behind bars for another horrific rape.
Did you attack the Central Park jogger?
Yeah, I did.
Did you rape her?
Yes.
Did you beat her?
Mm-hmm.
Did you leave her for dead?
I thought I left her there for dead.
A DNA test revealed Reyes was a perfect match to the DNA found on Miley, something prosecutors never had from the 5 teenage boys.
You have people who are bewildered that the system could be so flawed that they could wrongfully arrest, charge, and convict 5 people, but ultimately, at the core, was a national conversation about how our ability to accurately assess who's innocent and who's guilty, who should be incarcerated and who should not, is at best flawed and at worst working in such a way that the vulnerable get criminalized whether they did it or not.
Reyes had raped another woman in Central Park just 2 days before Miley. He insisted he acted alone and seemed to know details about the crime.
I was alone that night. I saw the lady, she was jogging. At the right-hand side, I saw a piece of branch there. I struck her over the head with the branch and she fell forward. I grabbed her to drag her inside to the bushes. As I dragged her in there, I remember that I took off her clothes.
What did you do? Who were you with? Who did you come with?
The 2012 PBS documentary, The Central Park 5, examined the case for the first time from the men's perspective.
I felt like they might take us to the back of the precinct and kill us.
In an interview with ABC News earlier this year, Fairstein took issue with PBS's portrayal.
That film was made while we had the equivalent of a gag order from a federal judge. We could not speak publicly. The daughter of the filmmaker had worked for the legal team of the 5, so I didn't exactly think we'd get a fair hearing.
In the aftermath of the convictions, Fairstein became a successful crime novelist, a high-profile prosecutor, and a celebrated advocate for sexual assault survivors.
Final Jeopardy, cold hit.
But in the wake of Netflix's take on the case, Fairstein's life and legacy are being called into question.
Linda has sort of overnight become a pariah, and she's just sort of losing esteem everywhere.
In the days since the Netflix series debuted, social media has taken Fairstein to task with the hashtag #CancelLindaFairstein, and online petitions have sprung up demanding her resignation from various positions, even a request to prosecute her. Fairstein has deleted her Twitter account, resigned from the boards of several organizations, and has been dropped by her publisher. Fairstein declined an interview request from ABC News. Duvernay also did not respond to ABC News' request for comment. She told me 2 years ago that the case has long been one she wanted to examine.
You called it the criminalization of the African-American male.
Yeah, the black male image and the criminalization of that. And so that's this myth that black people are more criminal. Is just that, a myth. So the Central Park 5 case was a case that we used to really examine that myth of criminality.
You're being lied to. It's Ava DuVernay's imaginary version of Linda Fairstein.
Some police involved in the case are defending Fairstein, including the former detective Eric Reynolds.
It's appalling. Most people who are against her, they hate her, or whatever their feelings are, they don't know the facts of the case.
The jogger, Miley, told ABC News earlier this year it's possible Reyes did not act alone.
There is medical evidence to support that more than one person was responsible for the attack on me.
In the wake of the prosecutors dropping the charges against all of them, the police commissioned an independent report to evaluate the police's conduct. And that report concluded that it was still very likely that they attacked these other people in the park, and that maybe they were even involved in the attack on the jogger.
While the report concluded that police had not engaged in any misconduct in obtaining the confessions, the men continued to maintain they were coerced into confessing and that they are innocent of all crimes.
The backlash that Linda Fairstein has received is entirely fair. The criticisms are on point. What we don't want to do, though, is isolate or scapegoat her. The problem with that narrative is that it makes us believe that if we could just get rid of that bad apple, or if that bad apple had never existed, we'd be just fine. But the truth is, it's not a bad apple, it's a spoiled system. And the whole bunch needs to be reimagined, reassessed.
As the public's fascination with the case continues, the men at the center of the saga have sat down with Oprah Winfrey in an interview to air this week on Netflix.
Watching this is painful, but it's necessary. This needs to be watched. Yeah. We need to make sure things change now.
There will never be closure in the Central Park 5 case. No amount of money can bring back the years that those boys lost, the innocence that was taken from them. And you have 5 boys who are attempting to piece together the shards and the fragments of their life after one of the most horrific injustices in American history.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.